The letter in my hand felt like a lit fuse, my anger simmering with every word I read. The nerve of these people, the sheer, unapologetic arrogance was something else. The Pinewood Hills Homeowners Association had the audacity to demand I remove my boat from my lake, Willow Lake, within 48 hours or face a $500 daily fine. They even threatened to tow it at my expense. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh as I scanned the letter's smug tone, dripping with fake authority. These self-important paper pushers had no clue who they were dealing with. For years, they'd been treating my family's lake like their personal playground without so much as a phone call. And now they thought they could bully me on my own land? Oh, this was going to be a showdown for the ages. My name's Ethan Carter, and until 8 months ago, I was just another burned-out software developer grinding away in Seattle's tech scene. I'd spent a decade building a startup focused on cybersecurity for banks, grueling work that paid well but left me drained. When a tech giant offered to buy us out for a sum that made my head spin, I knew it was time to step away. At 42, I was financially set but mentally fried, craving silence over endless Zoom calls. That's when I thought of the lake house. Willow Lake, a 60-acre gem in rural Oregon, had been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather, Samuel Carter, a former logger turned environmentalist, bought it in the 1940s when the area was just rolling hills and pine forests. He built a simple cabin by the shore and spent his later years fishing, writing, and teaching local kids to respect the land. I still remember summers with him, casting lines into the crystal water, listening to his tales of fighting off developers who wanted to drain the wetlands. "Water's the lifeblood, Ethan," he'd say, his voice rough but kind. "Don't let anyone tell you money trumps nature." Those words stuck with me, even as I chased success on the West Coast. My dad kept the property but rarely visited, too busy with his corporate job. When he passed suddenly from a stroke at 65, and Grandpa followed at 90, the lake became mine. I hadn't been back in years, too caught up in startup life, but now it felt like the perfect escape. I had the cabin spruced up, kept the rustic vibe, but added decent Wi-Fi and modern plumbing and moved in as fall turned to winter in 2024. The quiet was exactly what I needed. Coffee on the dock at dawn, afternoons fixing up the place, evenings watching the stars from my little fishing boat. That boat, a beat-up 16-foot aluminum relic from Grandpa, wasn't much to look at, but meant the world to me. It was perfect until the HOA stuck their noses in. It started on a crisp November morning in 2024. I was sipping coffee by the dock when I spotted a neon yellow notice taped to my boat. Violation notice, it blared, citing unauthorized watercraft and community aesthetic standards. Apparently, my boat didn't fit their vision for their lake, and I needed to register it with them. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, until I found a formal letter in my mailbox from one Charles Bennett, HOA president. I was still fuming when my phone rang. It was Walt Harris, my neighbor a half-mile down the shore. Walt, a retired mechanic in his late 70s, had known Grandpa and shared my hatred of pointless rules. "Looks like the HOA vultures finally sniffed you out," he chuckled. He told me they'd been getting bolder, hosting fancy fishing tournaments on the lake for years. "Your grandpa would have chased him off with a wrench," he said. Walt mentioned their Premier Anglers Society, a clique of rich weekend fishermen who acted like they owned the place. Curious, I dug online and found their website, plastered with photos of their annual fishing derby on my lake. Smirking guys in pricey gear posed with fish, standing on my eastern shore, where they'd set up tents and a temporary dock. The latest post hyped a big tournament the next weekend, complete with a $6,000 prize and a catered barbecue. They've been doing this for at least 6 years, banking on the cabin being empty. One post even called Willow Lake our community's pride and joy. The gall was unreal. I called my old college friend, Lauren Mitchell, an environmental lawyer who specialized in property rights. She laughed when I told her the HOA was trying to kick my boat off my own lake. "They're trespassing, Ethan. Plain and simple. Let's document everything before they cover their tracks." She suggested setting up cameras and digging into my deeds. I installed high-res, motion-activated cameras around the lake and pulled out Grandpa's old property records. Sure enough, I owned the lake, its bed, water rights, and the surrounding 20 feet of land, backed by a 2015 survey my dad had done. Then came an email inviting me to an HOA meeting. It wasn't personal, just a mass blast to the area. I went, curious to size up Charles Bennett. The meeting was in Pinewood Hills, over-the-top community center, all glass and fake grandeur. Charles, a slick 50-something with perfect hair and a politician's smile, droned on about fence heights and mailbox colors. When he mentioned unauthorized boats on community waters, I couldn't resist. I raised my hand and asked, all innocent-like, who exactly owned the lake. The room stirred. Charles, caught off guard, mumbled about historical arrangements and HOA management. I pressed, so, does the HOA have a deed, or is this a county thing? His smile twitched, and he dodged, moving on quickly. I caught him whispering to a woman, later Margaret Evans, the vice president, and a guy named Victor Reed, head of the Anglers Society. Their glances my way screamed trouble. Victor approached me after, all charm and fishing vest. You must be new. That old Carter place, right? Thought it was abandoned. I set him straight, saying the lake was very much mine. He offered me a spot in his exclusive club, oblivious to the irony. I played along, asking about their tournament. Biggest one yet, he boasted, right on the East Shore. I smiled, already planning to catch them red-handed. Back home, I overheard Charles and Victor muttering about speeding things up and handling the Carter issue. Then Charles showed up in my driveway, all fake charm, suggesting my cabin needed to meet community standards. I mentioned my deed, dated 1947, and watched his confidence flicker. That night, my boat vanished from the dock, replaced by another notice, impounded for noncompliance, with a $900 fine to get it back. I was livid but remembered Grandpa's advice. When you're mad, think sharper. I called the sheriff, who brushed it off as a civil matter, hinting the HOA had pull. Lauren arrived the next day, and we spread out the deeds. They were airtight. Willow Lake was mine, no question. She found county records showing Pinewood Hills' original plans acknowledged the lake as private. They've been lying to everyone, she said. Camera footage showed residents launching boats on my land, oblivious to the truth. Walt dropped a bombshell. His nephew at the county office had seen an HOA application for a luxury resort condos, marina, the works on my lake. It clicked. They'd been playing a long game, assuming I'd sell or stay gone. We planned our move carefully. Lauren drafted a polite letter requesting HOA records on lake management, keeping our cards close. We let the tournament go ahead, cameras rolling. Charles's lawyer, Tom Reynolds, sent a threatening letter full of vague claims, but no proof. I met with a local reporter, Jessica Klein, who'd covered HOA scandals before. She was intrigued, especially about the resort plans, but I asked her to hold off publishing until we had more. The day before the tournament, Charles showed up at my cabin, all smiles, offering to let me keep my boat if I signed a paper giving the HOA lake authority. I asked about the tournament and the resort rumors. His mask slip ties narrowing, voice tight. Just sign, Ethan. There's money in this for you. I handed the paper back, saying my lawyer was curious about the lake's status. He left, visibly rattled. Tournament day was clear and cold. From my deck, I watched trucks and boats flood my eastern shore. Victor set up tents and a bar. A banner screamed 16th Annual Premier Anglers Championship. Charles arrived with suited investors, pitching a resort with glossy brochures. Lauren and I crept closer, snapping photos as he lied about controlling the waterfront and negotiating with me. We had enough. Lauren filed an emergency injunction, armed with our evidence. The judge, seeing my clear ownership, granted it instantly. I hired security to post no trespassing signs around the lake. With a sheriff's deputy in tow, we marched to the tournament. The deputy announced the lake was private, and everyone had to leave now. Chaos erupted. Victor sputtered about tradition. Charles shouted about decades of HOA control. Lauren held up the injunction and my deed, cool as ice. You've been trespassing, Mr. Bennett, and misrepresenting this to investors? That's fraud. Residents, realizing they'd been duped about their HOA fees, turned on Charles. His investors bailed, faces grim. Jessica's article hit the next day, exposing the HOA's lies and the resort scheme. It went viral, fueling resident fury. At an emergency HOA meeting, Margaret tried to save face, but the board collapsed, with resignations piling up. I spoke up, offering a path forward: responsible lake access, respecting my ownership. Residents warmed to it, some apologizing for the mess. The county launched an investigation into the HOA's finances, curious where lake maintenance fees went. Charles's investors sued him for fraud. Jessica uncovered his past. He'd pulled similar stunts in Texas under a different name, barely escaping charges. He skipped town as the net tightened. My boat was returned, with a half-hearted apology from the new HOA president, Judge Henry Larson, a decent guy who stepped up to clean house. Over the next few months, I worked with Henry and the community to form the Willow Lake Preservation Trust. Residents could buy affordable access permits, with funds going to conservation. The Anglers Society reformed, open to all, and we turned the eastern shore into a small public park with a fishing pier and a plaque quoting Grandpa, "Water's life, not a product." I repainted my boat but kept its rugged charm, a nod to its role in this fight. Mornings find me fishing, sometimes with Walt, who loves retelling how Grandpa would have handled Charles with less patience and more cursing. The lake's thriving now, clearer than it's been in years, wildlife returning. Grandpa would be proud. It's not just about winning a fight, it's about building something better. Every time I see families at the park or anglers respecting the rules, I know we've honored his legacy. So what do you think? Was I too harsh on the HOA, or did they deserve every bit of it? Should private owners like me share their land, or is it fair to keep it locked down? And what about Charles? Do you think he'll try this again somewhere else? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe. I want to hear how you'd have handled these lake-stealing bullies.